Hey everyone, Rakesh here. Can you hear me and see the screen as well? All right, thank you. Okay, welcome back to today's session. And before we proceed, if you have any questions, please let me know so that I can answer them. And then we can proceed with today's topics. Any questions on the topics that we have covered so far? All right, so today we will proceed with uh, SAP HANA. So yesterday we were talking about the architecture, what are the different layers of SAP HANA, how it is called, and why it is called an accelerated machine, why it is called an advanced, and what are the advantages, how it works, and all these things. So there are two basic projects, a quick recall. One is if you're replacing the database with SAP HANA, then that is called powered by HANA. And if you are giving an entire solution using HANA Studio, then we call it as HANA as an appliance, right? So HANA as an appliance and HANA as a database. These are the two approaches. Either for SAP ECC or BI, you replace the existing database and replace it with SAP HANA. It is called HANA as a database. And if you are trying to build a new solution to the customer using HANA database and SAP HANA Studio, then you will give that as HANA as an appliance. So these are the two approaches in which we will be providing solutions to the customers. So if the customer is comfortable with whatever he has, right? So let us say if the customer has SAP BI screens from the last decade and he is comfortable with that, so he will not wish to leave those SAP BI screens and BI reports, and he will not wish to move out of that. So he will remain in that one. So what we will do, his backend database will be some DB2 or Oracle's databases. Then we will replace that with SAP HANA by removing this DB2 or Oracle database and replace that with SAP HANA database. So this is HANA as a database. Or if you're trying to build the same screens, right? So using BO reporting tool, and then on top of that, all the customization is done using HANA Studio. And that resides on HANA database. So this process is called HANA as an appliance. And this is HANA as a database. So in this approach, HANA as a database, customers tend to see the same screens which he had earlier. In this one, if the customer is flexible and he is willing to go for a new solution and a new box, then we will go and propose it. Right, so now let us say what are the different types of extractors, right? So there are different type of extractors like log-based replication. So this one is like ruled out from first version. So it used to be there initially because they acquired it from Sybase, this logic, and Sybase actually takes the logs of the source system and push them into the target system. And once these logs are done, whenever I call a log, it is a transaction log, an insert statement, update statement, and all these things. So these logs are run on the target system, and they used to get the data there. So it gives you the most accurate record, right? And the second one they have is system landscape transformation. So system landscape transformation, it has to be installed, the LT replication server. This component has to be installed, and if the customer has an SAP system which have a NetWeaver stack, right, you can go and directly install LTR, LT replication server on top of it. And if the customer doesn't have a NetWeaver stack, then he has to go and install a separate NetWeaver stack and install landscape transformation replication server, LTR server on top of it, right? So this is an additional cost if he is not having it. And second thing is, so let us say if I'm talking about a landscape transformation, it is also called as system landscape transformation. So in this approach, this is only specific to SAP system. So let us say they have an SAP box here, and they have LTR server, and they have the HANA target database. Right, what they will do using RFC connections, they will communicate with one second, sorry. So between an SAP system and LTR, they use a mechanism called remote function call, because both are SAP systems. And from LTR to HANA database, since HANA is a database, they will use a DB connect mechanism, right? So DB connect, that will help you to load the database. Right, so this will help us to extract the data from SAP and load it into SAP HANA. So SLT is limited to SAP, though SLT gives you real-time data. So when I say real-time data, what are the transactions that happens here will be reflected here. And so let us say if the customer has another source, non-SAP, so you cannot use LTR server there, because they only work with SAP systems. And one more limitation is you cannot apply the if then else decodes, nulls, or you cannot apply the business rules. No data scrubbing activity. So you cannot do a scrubbing on the data. You can just catch the entire landscape here and then dump here. So that is what you can do using an SLT mechanism or SLT data provisioning mechanism. So the second approach that we have is using data services. So if it is data services, you can connect to both SAP and non-SAP systems using data services. And then you can load it into SAP HANA, and along with that you can do what? Filtering. You can do validation. You can do enrichment or business rules. right? You can do everything that we have learned so far between your source and target. So the quality of data that goes into the HANA database is like more accurate, or the quality of the data is pretty much higher compared to what we get from SLT, right? So there are multiple advantages, and that is the reason why if we kind of sell this tool to the customer and say now they want to go with, now we leave them choice if they want to go with SLT or using bots, and we kind of promote bots because let us say if they have their bad data in the source, right? So there are some bad records, and if we are using SLT, we can directly dump them, and we can also not take non-SAP data. So based on the customer scenario, we will go and propose them like what kind of replication mechanism that they should follow, and this is called as data provisioning mechanism in data services. In SAP HANA it is called as, this is the right word, data provisioning mechanism. So different tools are used for data provisioning, SLT and bots, and also you have something called DXE, direct extract connectors, right? You can directly connect with the extract structures and you can dump that onto the HANA database, right? So more reliable and more space where you can qualify and quantify the data so that you can get using your BODS, right? So let us go and see how we load the data into SAP HANA system using SAP Data Services, right? So first, to log into HANA Studio, I'll just close this connection. Right, so to log into HANA Studio, the navigation will be Start, All Programs, SAP HANA, and you'll have HANA Studio. So remember, when I say HANA Studio, I'm talking about the front-end tool. I'm not talking about the database, right? So this is what I'm talking about. I'm not connecting to the database, because the database is a physical drive that is present there in the backend, and we as the developers, we communicate with HANA Studio only. So this system hardware installation and everything is done by SAP. So there are like standard partners like IBM, Fujitsu, and some other guys who support or who supply the hardware for SAP HANA database. And on top of that, SAP people will come and install this software and set up the environment and give it back to us. And they will give us the software where we can install the HANA Studio on our front-end applications like front-end systems or laptops. And from there we need to configure so that these studios will go and communicate with your HANA database. Alright, so this is my HANA Studio and this is my welcome page. So if you look at this HANA Studio, there are different perspectives in which you connect to the system. So if you go here, so these are the different perspectives. One is the modeler perspective, like as a data modeler, how do you connect to this one? Alright, the second one is an admin perspective, right? As an administrator, how do you handle this one? We need to connect to the modeler perspective and we'll be working on that one, right? And if you look at this one, so it is divided into two areas. One is your systems on the left hand side and this is your start page. So I'll just show you the start page. So this is your start page which will take you to a direct option where you want to log in as an administrator, open the modeler, open the development, lifecycle management, documentation for SAP HANA, right? So getting support for customers, provide information for SAP support. So you can directly log into whatever the perspective that you look on. So it is the development perspective that we want. And once you connect to the studio, earlier versions it is called as navigation, now it is called as system. So you click on the drop down and you need to add your system. When I say add system, I go and link my backend database to my HANA Studio. Right, so you need to go and add system, and once you have these credentials, so you have to give the HANA host name, the instance number, and you can just give the description and click on next, and it will ask for a username and password. Give them, and once you click on finish, this connection will be created. And sorry, oops, 1 second. Right, so this connection will be created, and this is if you know Oracle, right, you can completely correlate with what you see there. So on an Oracle system, right, we log in with the schema name and password, which is like the main username and password for Oracle using SQL Developer. And once you log into the Oracle window, you see a similar screen, right? On the left hand side you see the schemas and the tables views, procedures and all this stuff. So here you will also see this almost same almost the content like that. So it can be called as a combination of Universe Designer and Oracle database. If you have knowledge on these two, you can easily catch up with this one, right? So here if you see, first one is the content, where you will have your schemas. So this is the schema that I have created yesterday, and once you expand the schema, right, you have the column views, you have EPM models, EPM queries, functions, indexes, procedures, store procedures, sequences, synonyms, tables and triggers and views. So all this content you generally have them from the backend database, and this is where our tables will be sitting once we load the data into SAP HANA. So this is our content, and sorry, that is our catalog. And next one, so we go to the content. So under the content we'll have the packages. So package is nothing but you know, a development package, a testing package, a quality package. So like that we'll have the packages, and once you get into the package you will be creating the views, attribute view, analytical view and calculation view. And once we complete these views, we can feed the data to the target system or the target reporting tool. So here we'll go and create the attribute views, analytical views, a further modeling or dimension modeling on the data, and these views we provide them to the reporting tool. So a quick recall or a quick comparison to the Oracle database. So Oracle database has some tables, and you know, we cannot directly provide them to the reporting layer, SAP BO. So they need some make and break on the data. So what we do, we create views, and on the view, on a column level, you apply some business rules so that the data gets converted and it is maintained at the system cache level. And these kind of views are called our data providers for SAP BO, and these data providers feed the data to the reports, and these reports when refreshed they will pull the data from the views. So we are exactly creating a similar structure here. So attribute view, analytical view and calculated view. So if people are from SAP background, so attribute view is an attribute and combination. So let us say it's a DSO, and on top of that analytical view is a cube kind of a structure, and then calculation view is a multi-provider, a combination of multiple BI cubes. So we can create those kind of structures, and we can project those structures to the target reporting layer so that they can pull what are the information that they want from, and rather than drilling down through the entire tables, we create them the required views and provide it to them. All right, so now let us get back to what we are looking for. So apart from that, we have provisioning, so remote sources and data access, connections, and then the security. So security, you go to the users, and here you have to give privileges and what are the different roles that are present, and how do you map those roles to the users. So this is what we have in SAP HANA Studio. And now let us go and load the data into HANA Studio and see how we can do that. Now, to load my data into HANA Studio, first I need to have a HANA data store. So to create a HANA data store, you go to your local object library, data store tab, and click on new and call it as ds_HANA target. And that data store type is a database because HANA is a database. And you can click on the third drop down and you can go for SAP HANA. Then there are two mechanisms. One is you can directly give the HANA server name. Then this is the default port 30015, and then the username and the password. You can directly do it this way, or you can connect through your system DSN. So when I say system DSN, this is where you get it. You go to your control panels. So this you can do only when you are on the server where HANA is installed. So if you are not on the server where HANA is installed, and if you are working on a client node, please ask your administrator to go and create a DSN from control panel, administrative tools, and you see something called as ODBC connections. So there will be two different types. One is your 32-bit and 64-bit. So 64-bit is the right one. So you need to go there, and then on the second tab you have system DSN, and here you can go and add your system DSN. So once you click on add, it will show you the different backend connectors that are present. So HDB, ODBC, HANA database, open database connection system is our drive. So here you have to give the source name, or DSN name. So when I say data source name, it is like HANA_connect, and then the description and the server name, followed by the port name 30015, and just click on connect, and then you have to give the username and password. Click on OK. It says successfully connected, and if I click on OK, those like HANA Connect will be created. But there are many connections, so I want to use an existing one. You can just go and look at the same activities present here. So I click on connect, give the username and password. So it's connected successfully, and I'll be using the same one in my data services. So what I have to do next step is go to your data services designer, click on the checkbox use data source name, and go to the drop down and select Bharadwaj here, the one that we have on the backend database name, and just click on apply. And it says the data services version cannot be empty, so it is HANA 1.x. Just click on apply. You should not get any warnings. If you get any warnings, which means your system credentials are not correct. So I created a HANA data store, like we created the rest of the data stores. We created one. A slight difference is we created that with a Sorry guys, I'm back. Just lost my internet connection, so hope you can listen to my screen. I mean, listen to me. And organizer, can you make me presenter, please? So can you guys see my screen now? I just lost my internet connection for a bit. Alright, thank you. Sorry for that. Now we have created our HANA data store, which communicates with the external HANA Studio actually. So from Studio it gets connected to your backend database. So now let us go and load the data into SAP HANA. So before you load the data into SAP HANA, you need to make sure that you have a schema here. So this is a schema that I created. So you can create that your own schema by opening the SQL console. So we can go and create this one, and you can create a schema here. Right, so and once I execute this one, so I'll have a schema created. So I just created this yesterday, so I'm not going to create one. And once your schema is created, it will be displayed under your catalog, and under the catalog you'll have your tables. So we have our SAP source and HANA target. So let us take some tables from SAP and load that into SAP HANA. So create a new job and call this as job underscore load HANA. Job underscore load HANA database. Then create a data flow and call it as df underscore load HANA database. Then within this data flow, open this one. Now go to your SAP source, and you can search for SAP tables like Mara, Marcy. Alright, so now this is where you manipulate the metadata and data before you load it into the target system using a query transformation. You can do a column level filter and also a data level filter using the where condition. So I'm just selecting some of the columns here, and then you go to your template table, click back, and go and select your HANA data store and give the table name as Mara underscore stage. And here is, make a note of this, this is your owner name. So this is owner name is nothing but your schema name, which is BODS proj. So you have to change that. If you just give it by default as system, it will go and write your data into your system schema, which is available here. So we want it to go and write in a different schema there. So what you'll do, you'll go and do a change here by giving the owner name. So rest everything is same. Here you go and change the owner name so that the data will go and sit in that particular schema. Now validate this one and go and run your job. And once the job is done, then we'll go and look into this schema if that particular table is loaded or not. And we'll see a quick view on the data, how we can go and look at the data in the HANA Studio once it is loaded. And we will also see a quick analysis on the data. So if we are working on a HANA Studio, we understand the data is residing in the system cache, which is your RAM, accelerated storage. And you can do a quick slice and dice reports, or you can do a quick analysis on the data as you are a HANA consultant. So before you project that into a reporting layer and give a report to the customer, so you can do a quick analysis by pulling out the data and cross-check if it is matching with the customer stats or not. Alright, so it's taking a longer time because the SAP system is not responding well. So let us see if it is throwing an error. We can take some tables from the database and load it into HANA Studio. Or you can parallelly go and create one more job underscore db load HANA data flow underscore db load HANA. Now you go and take your source data store, pick your orders table, make it as source, and then take a template table, then put it in your HANA target data store and call it as BODS underscore watch. Click on OK. Table name, then connect it directly. Validate this one, no errors found. You can run this job parallelly. So this is in the stage of picking the records, and this is completed successfully. So with 830 records, this has got an error. Okay, so data type. So if you look at this one, Matner, inserted value long for the column, failed to insert Matner column with the value MD. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So this is having some space here, so it is not able to insert that. So what you can do is, if you get this kind of error, go to your job, go to your data flow and go here and change this one to some 20, or make it 50 and rerun it. It will successfully complete this one. Because you know, on the SAP system, the data resides in it in a compressed manner. So let's get loading into the target database. It's showing that error. So anyways, now we have your order stored in the target system. So select your schema and just refresh it, and you expand it and go to the tables, and you'll see your order stage and Mara stage is also created or getting created. Now if you look at the order stage, select this, right click and click on data preview, open data preview. So this is where you see the raw data. So this is my orders data, and if you want to cross check distinct values here, so you can select the customer IDs, right, and then these are the strings and these are the numerics. So automatically the system segregates them into strings and numerics, so you can get these values here. So dates, what are the distinct dates that you have on the system, what are the different shipwares that you have on the system. You know that you have 231. We worked on this data, right? So you can get a column into this box, right, and you can see what are the distinct values that there are present there. And if you want to do some analysis on the data, you can pull some order ID and order ID versus shipware, right? So these are the dimensions. If you don't want that, you can go and pick ship region You'll get these graphs and order ID versus order dates. So these are the graphs. So you can do some quick graphs here and give it to the customer or show it to him before you actually generate the reports. So you can kind of pick what are the different reporting display here, the graphical notation. You can create pies here. And you can ask the customers to look at these pies and you can go and select the others. So this is the data preview, right? Once you load the data into HANA, so if as a BODS developer you're responsible, then you can go and show him a data preview and show him a quick slice and dice reporting on the data so that the customer will be happy. So this is what we'll be doing with HANA Studio, right? And data services, and this is our data provisioning mechanism. Sorry for that. Alright, so this is how we load the data into SAP HANA using BODS, and once we load, this is how we go and verify the data. And now once this is done, we can go and create our data models, attribute views, analytical views, and calculation view here under your project, under your, we call this as package. So you go and create your package, and under this package you go and create your attribute view, analytical view, and calculation view. And once they are done, you project them to the target reporting tool. So this is how it works, right? So any questions on data provisioning mechanism using BODS to HANA? So any questions on data stores, any questions on job, any questions on the HANA Studio side, please let me know. And once these questions are answered, we will go to the project orientation. Yeah, Lakshmi.
Hi. Sir, yes, actually you were saying about data store, no sir? So in flat file to database extraction, while I was doing that data store, when I'm creating a data store, then it's showing a warning message for me. I was doing a number of times, but still it's showing a warning message like connect established database connection, ODBC call, something like that.
Yeah, you have to give the proper username and password. The first thing is your server name. So I think you are working on a different server, so you should not give BO41 there. Just look at the server name. So if you have a question, what will be your server name or where you can find it, go to your SQL Server 2008 R2, go to your Management Studio, and once you log in, this is where you will find the server name, right? So this is your server name. You give that server name, and then you give the database name, your target database name. So before you give the database name, you have to go and create one target database here. So you have to go and create one target database, select the database, click on new, and give the name here as target, and click on OK. Your target database will be created. Now you go to your data services, give the database name here as target, then the username and password and the server name. So then you will not get this error. I am working on a different server, so if you give these credentials there, it will not work. Okay, so just pass on the proper parameters, server name, database name, username and password, and you will not get that error.
Okay, sir.
So any more questions? Lakshmi, if your question is done, please request to be on mute.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So guys, any more questions on any other topics, please let me know. Alright, so next we'll go to the project orientation. So I'll just give you a heads up on what we'll be looking in this project orientation, so that we can cover all those topics, and then we will proceed to the next one. So on a project orientation, we'll start with the sales call, right? Then whoever will pitch in, then we'll talk about the workshops, who and what will happen in these workshops, then kickoffs, then again workshops, then development, deployment, testing. If you have mocks, you'll have mocks, then we'll have production, then you have go live and hypercare. So these are the different phases. Along with that, we'll talk about the methodologies. So small and medium enterprises, right? SMEs, they go with SAP AIO methodology. So this is the best practices given by SAP. And for large enterprises, we have BPDM, best practices for data migration. I shared some of these documents with you yesterday. So hope you went through them, or we can go through them a little later. And next recent one, we have something called as RDS. So BPDM stands for best practices for data migration, and RDS is the latest version called as rapid deployment solution. So if you look at these things, so fine-tuning AIO is called as BPDM, and further fine-tuning BPDM is called as rapid deployment solutions. So the main intention behind this is you follow a standard process when you migrate the data from one source to another, right? So that is the main intention behind this methodologies, because in the initial days when we started data services, or when I started working on data services, none of these methodologies or approaches were there, and every company, they followed their own approach. So they picked up their best practices and they had their own approaches, and they started working on it. So once they deliver the projects, SAP will be involved in that phase, since it is a new application that they have launched. And based on all the best practices that each and every company followed, SAP analyzed them, and it came up with these methodologies for small and medium enterprises, which is called as AIO methodology. So SAP AIO is also called as all-in-one methodology, right? So this methodology will follow a process. So we'll start with the sales calls, and then once we get into these methodologies, so we will talk about that in these workshops, which methodology that we need to follow, right? So we'll talk it about there. So initially, a project that starts with a customer requirement. So he can be your existing customer where he is facing an issue and you have a solution for that, or he can be a new customer referred by your existing customer, where you go and get an opportunity to talk to him, find out his problem, and then try to give him a solution. So initially, when we are aware about a customer's problem, so that is your origin, where you can go and pitch in and start working with the customer. So customer's problem is a scope for us where we can go and pitch in our solution. So let us say I have a customer who has different sources, right? Source 1, both SAP and non-SAP, source 2 and source 3, and now he wants to migrate this data into one target consolidated system. And then this is his requirement, because he was doing independent reporting on this, individual reporting on this, and individual reporting on this, and he is trying to consolidate these 3 reports manually, and with that manual efforts he is losing some data, or not getting the accuracy on the data levels. So now in these cases he wants to go consolidate the data, right, and put that in one place. Okay, so consolidation, data consolidation, consolidating the data from different systems and combining them into a single data set and put it into the target system. So this is the customer problem, that he has bad data right now. He is not able to see the accurate data in the reports. So if it is a new customer, right, so existing customers or existing customers reference to another customer, that's fine. But the third case is a new customer. You go and call them and you tell them that you are calling from so and so company and from sales department, and we'll just to find out if the customer is looking out for any scopes or any current situations. So generally these kind of calls will be routed to the managers there at the customer side. If they have any questions or any concerns about their current process, they can talk about this. So once we get an opportunity, we will have a presentation, a sales call, right? So in this presentation, generally the sales people will go and make an introduction to the company. So they introduce what are the practices, what are the different practices that we have, what we do here, and what kind of customers we deal with. Is there manufacturing industries, oil companies, pharmaceutical companies? So the sales people, they generally go with sales tech, and they tell them like, this is what we are to SAP, and this is what we are to these customers. These are our existing customers. There are some more customers whom they don't want us to display their name, but they are like manufacturing chains, oil and gas company chains, and they are chemical factory chains. So they will talk about this and try to gain some confidence with the customer, saying that we have done so much of business, why don't you give us an opportunity? And once the customer gives us an opportunity, then they will float an RFQ, which is nothing but a request for questionnaire, right? So in this RFQ, you will write all possible questions to understand this system or this project. So sales guy anyways will tell you this is what, on an overview, that this guy is looking. He has some different sources. Now he wants to merge them into a single source. Now in this RFQ, you will be writing like, what are the different sources that you have? What is the volume of data? How many SAP systems? How many non-SAP systems? On an average, how many tables will be there, right? And so with this, we will try to get a technical gist of the customer system to understand it better, right? So this questionnaire, we will float to the customer saying that we will, and also we will try to understand what is there in our scope or what is not. So we'll try to understand where we stand, right, in this customer's place. Is that he's just trying to give us a small piece of work, or he is trying to give us the complete work handle to us and ask us to deliver it? Sorry. So I'll talk to this customer and try to understand where we stand, and once we get this response, RFQs will get RFP followed by RFP. So once we get the answers, we will see if we have that competency available with us and can we deliver this, and then we'll send a proposal to the customer. So along with us, there will be so many other customers, other companies who will be submitting their proposals, and then there will be a bid, and once based on that, we get picked or we get kicked off. So that depends on the situation. And once we get picked, so we will make an agreements with the customers. It can be an MSA or an SOW. So master service agreement is generally for year-based agreement, saying that all these applications will support for the next 3 years, and this is a revenue rate. So you give different rating, and XYZ amount for your on-site consultant, and ABC dollars for your offshore consultant. So you put an MSA, master service agreement, per year, and SOW is per project, right? So based on whatever the approach you want to go with the customers, you do either MSA or SOW. And some in some cases you do both, and you do an MSA and you also do an SOW. So SOW is statement of work, right? SOW stands for statement of work, which will contain what is in your scope, what is not in your scope, what you will be doing, what are the assumptions that. So let us say, for you to start this project, there is some other team, XYZ team, that has to complete all their activities on time. And if they don't do that, it will impact your deliverables. Second thing is they have to complete the entire work. If they keep something pending, you cannot kickstart. So you will have these kind of assumptions. Then you'll talk about the dollar benefit to the company, and you will also talk about your scope, your understanding on the project, and the resource augmenting, and we'll talk about the duration, milestones, and all these milestones for payments, the duration for this project, and we'll talk about all these things. And once all these things are done, then it will be mutually signed by both the customer and the company, right? So this is an agreement saying that we will deliver these services to you, and that is also, the customer signing that is an indication that they will accept that we will be delivering only these services, nothing beyond that to the customer. So once this SOW is signed, then we can do a kickstart, a project kickoff. So generally this project kickoffs happens once we get this SOW signed, and once this project kickoff happens, we will have a continuous workshops with the customers. So first one is a workshop on the project. So in this project workshop, they will try to understand how many modules are there in this project. So how to divide them, what is dependency, what are independent objects, and what are the prerequisites. So they will create an entire flow, right? Okay, this has to be loaded first. All the lookup tables, T tables has to be loaded first. Then you go with master data, material, vendor, customer, or even in them they will define an order. First you have to load the vendor, then material, then only you can load the customer, and then on top of that you will go and do the transactional loads, and final will be your GL postings. So they define the order. So the data owners from the customer side, the functional consultants from the customer side, they will decide on how many modules this project is divided into, and what are the dependencies and what are the independents. So nomenclature is one most important, right? So thing in the project. So while the customer people define this one, our people will define the project naming standards, right? So we'll create a document. If we are following the methodologies like BPDM, RDS, they have their built-in nomenclature available. If not, if we are in AIO methodology, we'll put some project standards. So generally, this is a process in which we will follow. Though you follow a BPDM, still you will go and create a document saying that this is the naming standards. And in this naming standards, we will define how these projects are called. So it is like project will be called as PROJ, job will be called as JB underscore, the customer name, and then the methodology, and then the module, and then the submodule, and the activity that you are performing with that job. So is that an extraction job, or is that a load job? I'll walk you through one project on SAP AIO, which talks about the naming conventions on AIO projects. So I created that project and the naming convention standards for that. So once these things are done, then we will also have to estimate how many people manpower that is required for this project. So we'll be doing that initially when we send out an RFQ. We will also do an estimate like how many people are required for this project. But again, once we get a clear picture on this one, so we will have to do a manpower estimate. So how many man hours do we need? How many people we require on this project? How many developers? How many testers? So the architects, admins will decide on this one, and then the technical leads and the project managers, right? So these guys will decide on the nomenclature and the order in which. So we will also involve our functional consultants from our company, right? And so that they can interact more with the data owners or the functional consultants from the customer side, and they can easily understand this. So once these workshops are done, then based on the size of the project, they will go like they want to either go with an AIO or BPDM, best practices for data migration or rapid deployment solutions, right? And now per module they will create a functional specification, or it is also called as a functional design document, right? Per project they will go and create this one. And just give me a second. I think Bhargav is missing in today's class and he was asking about this. Let me just forward it to him and see if he can join. So actually he was following up with me on the project orientation, so I thought he'll be there, but I somehow see that somebody is missing in today's session. Yeah, it's Bhargav. Now, based on the customer's project size, we will decide on which methodology, and per module here we call that as an object. So we'll not call that as module, but we call this as an object. So if it is a big project, we divide that into different streams. One is sales, then the second one is marketing, and the third one is customers. So we split them into 3 different streams, and then you'll have all the jobs related to sales will be present under this. All the job related to marketing and procurement will be present. All the jobs that handle your customer will be present under this. So we can either divide that into different streams, or you can have a single stream which is your entire project, and you can have your jobs under that. So as this process goes, the admins and architects, they design the landscape of the project. So how many environments they need. So they just need dev, QA, and prod, or they are looking for mock environments and all these things. So they decide on what is the landscape that is they are going to design, how many developers, how many testers, how many code promotion consultants, and how many reviewers they need, right? So they decide on all these things, and now we have these people started, and where they will be working on setting up the dev environment first, and they will create users, authentication, central repositories, and everything, and go and configure that. And while these people work on that activity, so these functional consultants from both from our end, the company end, and the customer end, they'll go and create a functional design document. And looking at the functional design documents, the leads or the senior consultant, they will go and create a technical design document. We call that as TTD, or a technical specification. Right, these guys will go and create the technical specification and technical design document, and so this is nothing but a pseudo code, right? So the best practice we had in SAP is every person, so they should go and write their own technical specification looking at the functional document. They will be given a chance to interact with the functional consultant who wrote this, or a functional consultant from our end who understand this FDD. So they will have continuous interaction with that guys, and they will ask them to create the technical design document. So to another level, they will have the job names, right? The number of data flows required for this one, the data flow name, what you will be doing in data flow 1, data flow 2, data flow 3. So this is where they are forcing a developer to foresee what he should do on his system, right? So this is one way good because he already knows what he has to do, and if somebody is a fake consultant, or he doesn't know what to work on data services, he's just came in like that. So this guy cannot proceed further, right, without doing a technical design document. So to do this technical design document, the main requirement for you to is understand what is your source, what is your target, and how the data is moving. So in this thing, you'll define what are your sources. Technical design document, you'll define what are your source, and then list down the tables from your source and list down your target tables. Then you go and define the job name, the data flow names to extract all the tables, then to validate them, then to enrich them, and all these different activities that you do. And you will also give the target table names as per the project naming standards. So once you create the technical design document or a technical specification, that will be reviewed by your senior folks, or there will be a review team who will go and do a peer review on the project. So they'll do a peer review, and once it is a peer review is done, then it will be given for a code review on the TDD. So somebody who understands this one, like generally the leads, they will do a review on the code. So peer review is something that if every segment of this document is filled, right? The source table names, the target table names, and all these things, proper naming conventions. So those will be covered in the peer review. And after that, you'll have a code review where that particular guy who is doing a code review, they'll look at the logic and they will look at the functional design document, and if there are any mistakes or wrong understanding, they will go and correct us to update this one, again send it back to peer review, and then a code review. And once it is done, it will be signed off or frozen. So this is one important thing. So whatever the documents that you create in this project, let it be your FDD, functional design document, technical specification, SOW, and everything should be signed off and converted to a PDF. So that is an understanding that, so this particular requirement is frozen, and if in case the business owners or the data owners or the functional customers from the customer side, if they identify new changes, those will be, we will not say will not do that, but they will be identified as change requests, and additional revenue will be required for that one. Or if in case if something consumes less than 40 hours, so we'll say we'll do it for free, but we need time for that. But if it is greater than 40 hours, man hours, efforts, if it is greater than 40 hours, then we'll say that you will be considering that as a change request. So that will be there in your SOW. Your SOW talks about all the terms and conditions, right? So once the documents are frozen, there should not be any upcoming changes, and you should not be again going and modifying it. So likewise, your TDD will also be frozen and signed, and once it is done, then likewise all the developers will go and create their technical design documents, and they will get them reviewed and signed. And once it is done, then we will have our development kick started, right? So by the time they complete this, these people will complete the development environment, and everybody will log into their local repository. Now they have a functional design document, the story document, which says that why and how we have to do it. And the second one, they will have technical design documents. So what is the exact pseudocode that they have to do on the system, and then they will go and look at the TDD, build it exactly, and once the development is done, they will be testing the job. So once the development is done, the users will be testing the job, initial testing. So in this one, you call it as unit testing. The developers will be testing. So based on his understanding from the functional design document and technical design document, once the data is loaded into the target system, they will test the data. So while they are doing a development, they will follow whatever the methodology they need. And as per these standards, he will go and test the data at every phase. All right, key, I've done my extraction, is that good? I've done my validation, is that good? So he will do some initial testing, because before he gives it to the quality guy, he should make sure that whatever he has done is correct, right? So this guy will do some tests and he will maintain the test scripts. So test script is nothing complicated, right? He will go and select, select star from table name where a particular order ID is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. He will see how many records he fetched from here, and he'll go to your target and he will write the same statement, select star from orders table where your order ID is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. So you should see the same count unless and until you are doing a filter on the data. You should see the same count in both your source and target tables, right? So that is that level of testing, the count of data. Then he will go and pick another order ID. He'll run this script here, he'll run this script here, and in this test scripts he will say my source script is this, my target script is this, my source data output screenshot, this is my target data output screenshot. And if your data is more, then what you'll do, you'll give a count of records on your source and target. And once this is done, right, and once this is done, this guy will deliver this to the QA. So which means you will upload them into your central repository, and from there the code promotion guys moves that to your QA system. And again, the QA people will get the latest version of the job, run them, and try to validate if there are any defects. If there are defects, they will be assigned back to the developer. If there are no defects, then they will give a recommendation to go and promote them to the production environment, where the code promotion guys will be promoting them to the production environment. So this is the general approach. Like if you have mock environments in between, before they go to the production, they'll go and load the data into the mock environment. So mock is nothing but your production's replica, a mock copy of your production system. And once it is done, there will be a go live date, cutoff date. So on the cutoff date, you will go and load the entire data from your source to target, and that will be a big workshop or a war room kind of an activity, where on the wall they will define the order in which all these objects has to be executed. So one by one, the load consultant will be running them and loading them into the production system. If in case they find any bugs, they will go and fix it online then and there itself, and they will proceed with the subsequent ones. So that's the reason why we'll have multiple mocks, to make sure that once we load the data into the prod environment, there is no bad happening there. And that is where we call it as a go live of the project. And once the data is loaded into this one, so let us say we have our BODS job scheduled to run daily, or there is some change request as we spoke earlier. So all these things will be taken care in the hypercare. But if the customer needs that to be done as part of the development itself, so they will create a change request and they will give additional revenue to us and ask us to do that as a part of the development itself. Or if not, in the hypercare, we'll give some agreement saying that we will handle some 10 change requests for free of cost, and then we will proceed with so and so dollar amount, and again we'll give an condition saying that the required man-hour efforts are less than 40 hours for this one. Right, in hypercare, what you'll do performance tuning activities. You will go and fix the bugs, or you will work on the change requests. So these are the different activities that we do at the project level. Now, this is the flow right from your sales call to your hypercare. So what the admins and architects will be doing, what the testers will be doing, and then what your developers will be doing, what are the different workshops that we'll be going through. So if you have any questions, you ask me. Right now I'll try to clarify them, and once I clarify them, then we'll go and talk about the methodologies here. So any questions on this is general process that we follow on any project, but yeah, again I want to talk about that first and then try to include our methodologies and processes there so that we can talk more about that. So any questions? So initially it will be the sales call, that will be your number one, and then you'll have workshops, then you'll have your sorry, initially you'll have your sales call, and after that you'll have your RFQ, RFP, then your MSA or SOW, and once they are signed off, you'll have the project kickoff meeting, that is 5, and then we'll have the project workshops where they define the landscape and the project scope. So we work on these two activities where we define what are the different objects that needs to be migrated, and also on the project landscape. So project landscape, they decide on how many people required, what are how many testers, how many developers, how many code promotion consultants, how many admin rights, and all these things. So if it is a huge project, then probably we need to have 4 to 5 admins. So referring to the project that I did with SAP, so there are it's the world's biggest data migration project, and we had 125 developers, only developers, forget about the admins, architects, testers, and all those things. We had only 125 developers working on this project, and that huge they are. So in those cases you need multiple admin people there, so we had them in place, right? So based on your project size and number of objects that you need to migrate from your source to target, we decide on that, and then we'll go with what next step, creating the FDD and the TDD on that. And once this everything is signed off, then we will go and do a development and unit testing. Then once it is deployed, the code promotion consultants, they will move that from development to QA, and once it is done in the QA, they'll run on a separate environment. Then if it is done in QA, they go to mock, and then they go to the production environment, and they will do a go live activity, and after that we will go and do a hypercare. So this is the process. So as we go through the process in these workshops, we decide which methodology that we have to go for. If your target system is an SAP system, right, and you have your sources as SAPs, and most of them are SAPs, and one of them is non-SAP, a couple of the systems are non-SAP, then you go with an IDOC loading mechanism. So when you say IDOC, you either go with a BPDM or an RDS, Rapid Deployment Solution. So if your target system is a non-SAP system, right, you can't go with the BPDM or RDS. You have to go with an AIO methodology, which is for small and medium enterprises, right? So based on your target, based on your project scope, based on what you're trying to do here, so there will be multiple factors which derive which methodology that you will be picking up, right? So tomorrow we'll be talking about the methodologies AIO. Then once I'll walk you through a project document that I had on AIO, so I'll show you what is AO methodology, the flow in which we do that, and sorry, I will not be sharing these project documents. Please don't mind, because they are property of the company and I'm not supposed to even show them, but I'm just showing so that you can understand it more and it will be more easy for you. So don't ask any project related documents. The rest of the documents are already shared, and if you need something, please let me know. I'll try for it and I'll try to share it. Then we will look into the BPDMs, so best practices for data migration. So I shared a document called as EN quick guide, right? So that
and Rakesh,
hey Zafar.
Can you a little bit explain about the lead role responsibility, just more?
Yeah, we will talk about it, Zafar. So as we proceed, right? Okay. So it is not just an end here. So we'll be talking more about that. We'll talk like what are the different phases they get involved, right? So this is just a flow that we spoke till now, saying that what are the different areas that we'll be working in. So next step we will say where, okay, now let me complete that one as well today. So I'll tell you where which person gets pitched in, where the testers will get pitched in, where the developers, where the leads, where the architects will pitch in, and then tomorrow we'll look at the methodologies.
No, you can explain tomorrow. It will be okay. Because too many things you already explained.
Okay, so I've shared one document today, and yesterday I sent it through email. So that is called as DM Quick Guide EN. So just go through this document, which is for best practices for data migration, which is followed by SAP Notes. So SAP Notes, first read that, and then you can go and look at these documents. Please do this homework. So just go through this. Just go through this like a story, and I'll tell you what is what there, so that you can easily understand it tomorrow. Okay. So we'll talk about the BPDMs, the best practices, methodologies, and you know, when you have to go for a BPDM or RDS, and when you have to go for an AIO. And I also have an RDS downloaded, so we'll talk about that RDS as well. And as we talk about these three methodologies, we'll talk like where a lead has to pitch in, where a project manager has to pitch in, where an architect has to pitch in, where a code promotion consultant, where a tester. So what will be their roles? What will be their responsibilities? Because if I say tester, so we clearly know that, okay, this guy should connect to the central repository, get latest. So we have done this one, as in the past we have done this. So he had to get latest job, then he has to run the job, then he had to run the test cases, right? If he finds the data good, he had to give a sign off. If the data is bad, he has to raise a ticket and reassign it to the developer. So these are the different roles that a tester will be playing. So he'll get the latest from the central repository, just right click and run the job, run the test cases on the final output data. If everything is good, he will give a sign off to the code promotion consultant to migrate it from testing to the production environment. If not, if there are bugs, he will raise a ticket, and in that ticket he will mention the error name, error description, and he will ask the developer to go and fix that one, right? So these are the tester roles. These will be the standard tester roles. Project manager, he will be involved from here, right? Right from creation of SOWs, because once we create these SOWs, we also, you know, have to create some deals within our systems, within our company system, saying that, okay, these 10 people I am going to make them billable for the next 1 year, next 10 months for this project. So this is where a PM gets involved on the project management activities. He will say, he will maintain the escalation chat, he will maintain the communication structure, he will maintain the status mails, right? He will maintain the on-site and offshore interaction mechanisms, how frequent they should have the calls, and he will provide all the resources like the phones, the bridges on which the team should communicate, and he will do all the project management activities, right? So that's where that PM will get involved. So based on his experience, he will work on RFQs, RFPs. Both PM and technical guys will be working on this one, and PMs or LCs, I mean, I don't see much difference in the roles. Both of them play alike. So they go and write these MSAs. So it's not something new. So every company will have their own master service agreement pattern or a template document. We'll go and fill those templates and we follow them, and we fill them, get it reviewed by our legal team and finance team. So there will be two teams. The finance team will see if I'm getting the right revenue, if there are mistakes in the numbers or not, and legal team will cross-check and verify if there are any legal issues in this document. So we say something bad and the customer might feel, right? So we should not use some harsh words like you are responsible, you should be working on. So, and we cannot say I might look into this. So these kind of words, should, could, would, so we should not use them in SOWs. These are the basic rules that we generally follow when we write this statement of works. So the kickoff meetings are handled by leads and project managers. So this is where the functional consultants get involved, and in the nomenclature and the architecture, in some companies they have a bandwidth to have their architects. So they will have their architects, they will have their leads. So big projects. For small projects, leads has to play the role of architects, where they will go and decide on the landscape and all these things, and parallelly they will be attending these workshops as well, and they will decide on the order in which they have to be executed. So when customer is asking, so based on our experience, we will tell them the pros and cons. You can do it this way, you can do it this way, but you can't do it this way because these are the disadvantages. We can educate the customer. So it is not always that you should say yes to the customer needs. If the customer is asking something stupid, you can go and tell them, no boss, this is not how it works. This is how it works, and this is how we delivered in the past, right? So we can educate them, not at all a problem. And once these are done, again, when we are, so some projects, they make it mandatory that, the developer should go and write their TDDs. So, but generally, the functional consultants and the lead consultant and the senior consultants will go and write the technical design documents, because they have much experience on this tool, and they understand the business, they understand the logic. So they go and write the technical design documents, and the development, once the development starts, the lead will deploy a key. User 1, you work on this. Developer 2, you work on this. Developer 3, you work on this. He will deploy the work. He'll deploy the work to different people, and he follow with them, right? So if where they are doing, and generally on any project, the most complex work will be taken up by the lead. So if there are like 3 complex jobs, so he will pick them for himself, and simple job, because he knows his team, how they work, and their attitude or their thought process. Since you know them as your team, so you will map them their a job as per their capacity, right? So you will not give them a hardest one. So you'll give them a job as per their capacity, and you will ask them to build that. So you will tell them what to do, how to do, and you'll follow up with them if they are stuck somewhere, some issues, some errors. So generally, leads will be helping out the team in getting them resolved. So if something is related to admin, so again they will give them that particular privileges and let them run through that. So leads will be creating the nomenclature documents, the best practices, and also once the development is done, the team will be creating their job specific documentation, where the leads will be reviewing them and consolidating all of them to the project documentation, right? So internal audits and everything the lead should handle. what else? What else the leads will do? So especially the code promotions are done by leads some of the times when you don't have more people or you are working as a contractor. So code promotion is done because if a developer is expected to complete a job in 10 days, lead will complete it in 2 days. That's the expectation. So I'll put it aside and he will start helping his team do the code promotion activities and all. And once the jobs are loaded into the central repository, leads will be cross-checking that if everything is loaded, anything is missing, by just getting the latest version into his local repository and just validating if everything is correct syntactically or not. So these are the different kind of roles that a project manager or a lead or an architect, so 3 at the same level will be playing. Is that okay, Jafar? You want me to?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you very
thanks.
much. Actually, I have an interview tomorrow.
Oh, man. Okay.
So that's why I just want to make sure that whatever I made myself, so I can at least explain. So that's why I was asking.
Yeah, just go through this recording.
That interview will be a general interview, but maybe the technical interview I think they are scheduling next week, maybe in the mid of week. So
okay.
I will go through with the recordings, especially. So I just want to know. This role is not for lead, but I just want to know because I was watching some of the recorded session, so it's much covered already, right? So I think the only thing I'm little confused about the XML you explained in last 2-3 years. That's the only thing I need to cover. Other things that's good.
XML, even it was a bouncer when I started because we generally have, a mindset of structured data. When it gets back to unstructured data, probably, you go through the recordings and the documents that I shared and repeat that 2 to 3 times, you get used to it. Because initially when I started reading it, though, it was a bouncer for me. But I even wanted to go into that area of data services and cover that. So I kind of worked almost 10 times on that one, end to end for me to understand that.
So tomorrow when I will have an interview, so I can tell them, right? So 90% of the BODS job done through the platform transformation, right? So most of them, right? So I can say, right? So okay. So I make
you can use those things. So whatever I told when he was talking about, so I said this is the interview question, and even though they don't ask you that question, you put that point there. That adds some good points to us. So I talk about the central repository architecture, check-ins, checkouts, talk about the data store creations, right?
And one more thing, like some companies have BW, right? So they have information model. So if they want to move to the SAP HANA, so they will use the DXC, right? So
DXCs,
okay. But for the BODS, we can use the non-SAP and SAP, right? If you want more control. Okay.
Yeah. So when you actually do a database migration, right, from existing database DB2 or Oracle to SAP HANA, so we do a sidecar approach, right? So we create an instance of their existing system, and on that instance we do a database dump. So it can be a log dump or it can be entire landscape dump from one system to HANA, and on top of that you again point your PSAs. If it is an SAP BI system, you point your PSA to the database and then do a customization on the front end screen, BI screen, so that they communicate with the backend HANA database. So there are some settings on BI 7.4. So post data migration you have to do those checks so that they understand that the backend database is this thing. So you do a sidecar approach. You keep the existing customer system like that. You do a data migration, then you make his application sit on top of the new database, and then you run these jobs and cross-check everything is good. Then you parallelly give the new system to the customer and show the difference. Like your old system is running for 10 minutes, the new system is running in 10 seconds.
So we want to keep the existing system first, right? So if it's running, then we can ensure it is working, and the new system will go parallel, right?
Yeah, that is a sidecar approach. So parallelly, you will run a new system and change the database. From here it is the old database, now it will be the new database, and you can, since this is just an instance that you are creating of the application here, so you can point all those reports to this new instance and you can refresh them, and the execution time you can see that pretty fast. So this is taking for 10 minutes, so this is for 10 seconds. So that huge difference will be there, and so you can tell them, the customer, this is how we have done your data migration, and once he is satisfied with this, he will go and decommission the old system.
Oh, okay. So that's called sidecar, right?
Yeah, this is a sidecar approach. Or if a customer is, planning to go for a complete data migration process, and there are so many business rules, he just don't want this dump from here to here. He wants the data to be migrated, transformed, and loaded into the target. Then we go with BODS, right? We load them into the target system, and again we create an instance of that, dump connected, and give it to them. If the customer is still,
yeah, in the sidecar, we will not use the BODS. What did you say?
So sidecar approach, generally, if the customer is not looking at any data changes, so we do a DB migration. So we take a backup of this drives and dump them here.
Oh, okay.
So this is a complete
right?
system admin activity. So dump on the system and dump it here. So that is a DBN activity. So we did one POC for a customer on SAP HANA where we did a dump of this one and loaded it into the system. So that is one approach. The second one approach is if he is looking for changes on data, right, then you can go and propose data services. So data and metadata both. Yeah, you can go and propose data services, and you can.
Okay, let's say they have like a banking services or ECC, any model, right? So if they want just SAP system to SAP HANA, then we can go with the SLT, right? Because we are not making a lot of changes in the data. We just create for reporting purpose.
Yeah, if you're not doing any changes, you can easily go for SLT.
Oh. Okay, Rakesh, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Zafar. All the best for your interview.
Okay.
Right. They'll definitely do it. Just go through this session one more time, and the more brownies that we get is when we talk about the central repository, which is very rare. People don't understand that, and the project standards, the naming conventions, the methodologies. Right, just talk about them, and then every methodology goes through the same process. One is extraction, the second one is validation, third one is enrichment. So this will be the base. Validation.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For the for example, if I need some kind of support after the training, if I'm stuck something when I'm working in a company, so
yeah, we can talk about it, Zafar.
Okay.
I'll support you on that one, not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So these are the standard process. So AIO goes through extraction, and AIO is for small and medium enterprises. So we'll have something additional called as deduplication, because most of these AIOs, they get the data from non-SAP systems and flat files. So we assume that there will be duplicates in the data. So we do extraction, deduplication, validation, and enrichment. So BPDMs, they go with extraction called as mapping, validation and enrichment. RDS also go with this process. So final thing will be in AIO, it will be a load file that you'll be creating or directly loading into the target database. So for BPDMs and RDS, you'll be doing an ad hoc load. And remember, if somebody asks you, you follow an AIO methodology, but still you have to load it into a target SAP system, but one or two tables, you generate a flat file, a structured flat file, and use LSNW to load that into your target system. So Zafar, these are the things that you should keep in mind about the methodology and the approach in which you will be loading them into the target system. So hope this helps. All right. So yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for attending today's session, and tomorrow we'll have our last session where we'll be talking about the methodologies, the BPDM, and one current project. So though we did not follow much of the methodology is there. We followed the basics, but we did not go for the process because that is a complete customer driven requirement. So they have a different thing. So validation, generally we capture the invalid records and we delete them, but they have a requirement that they want us to store those records as well, but tag them with a different line. So these kind of custom requirements, so generally you go to a project, you'll not find it like a piece of cake. It will not be straight. So there will be some twisted requirements. So that's the reason why I decided to walk you through this project. And also we'll talk about the try and catch that we had, and then we will also talk about the SMTP2 email notifications. Then we will talk about email notification on successful completion, email notification on failure, email notification on threshold limit, email notification if the source file is not available. So we have done a lot, and also we used Windows script to read the data from FTPs and provide it to BODS, because that is the limitation with BODS. As of now, it's not there. So SAP promised that it will be working on that on quarter 1 of 2016, but we achieved that using Windows script. So we'll talk about all these things end-to-end scenario. Hope that will give you a complete picture on what we'll do on the project. So 2 projects, one is your AIO and the second one is my current project. So we're talking about the 2 projects and also the methodologies. So tomorrow we'll connect sharp at 6 AM IST, and probably we might need to extend because for 2 hours the total session will not go beyond 2 hours, but yeah, if it required, we'll stretch and complete that. And tomorrow will be the last session. So guys, if you have any questions, please reach out to me with your questions. And if we spend more time on answering the questions, tomorrow we can extend this class today after, not a problem. But yeah, please come out with your questions, get them sorted out, and let me clarify them, and then we can go and understand on the projects. Right? So yeah, thanks for joining today. Have a wonderful day ahead, and good day and good night. So I'll catch up tomorrow, and probably tomorrow will be our last session. And thank you.